Percy Jackson in the Sea of Monsters is actually a very watchable film. Sure, it did completely change the ending of the book, and kind of put the final nail in the coffin of Percy Jackson as a franchise, but it's actually not all bad. I mean, they remain closer to the books than The Lightning Thief, and sure, things still come off as corny, but far less than that original film. Every moment you get this,
I heard there was a prophecy about me.
there's also this.
You're on the losing side!
Like, why can Luke surf on a wave with Percy? This just doesn't make sense. Either way, Sea of Monsters not only builds the universe, but also introduces us to some new and interesting characters within Percy Jackson, my personal favorite being Tyson. Today we're going to cast the characters within Sea of Monsters, and this is the 4th video I've done in a series, which is recasting Percy Jackson with a more accurate portrayal to the books. Hopefully what they'll do in the Disney Plus series, but if you enjoy what I'm doing here, please click that like button, check out those previous videos in the series, and click that subscribe button so you don't miss out on Titan's Curse. But for today, we're recasting Tyson, Hermes, Athena, Polyphemus, Circe, and Clarisse. So let's recast Percy Jackson. First up, we have Tyson, the Cyclops who is the other son of Poseidon and the half-brother of Percy. As I mentioned earlier in the video, he's one of my personal favorites within the universe. Tyson is an interesting character with an interesting backstory. A backstory that would turn even the most hopeful person into someone who's bitter and sour. But Tyson, against all odds, sees the world in the way that we hope to, enthusiastic and childlike. Now with this casting and an actor for Tyson, it's a little strange, because Tyson is actually starting the series at between 8 and 9 years old. He's actually 6 feet tall, has broad shoulders, and definitely underestimates his raw strength. Meaning, it doesn't really make sense to cast a 9-year-old here. It's important we cast an older actor, but someone who brings that energy, someone with that innocent charm that Tyson has. I actually like Douglas Scott's portrayal, even though the effects were questionable at best, but if I'm being picky, he looked nothing like what I pictured the character. I end up going with Gaten Matarazzo, who I feel can perfectly pull off this. He has that sense of wonder and that childlike state, but there's also that innocent likability that he really brings to screen, especially in Stranger Things.
Is he here?
Henderson!
Henderson! He's back! He's back!
I'm back! You got the job!
You got the job! Hey, oh!
Now, Gaten actually has a rare bone development disability, which does affect the way he looks, but it also kind of makes him perfect to play a role like this. He's got an interesting look that I think would work really well with being a Cyclops, and although he's 18 right now, I can definitely see that innocence and that loving nature and just that hopeful outlook on life that Tyson has. So Gaten Matarazzo as Tyson. Next up, we have Athena. Now, Athena actually has little screen time, but I feel like it's very needed in order to show that relationship with Annabeth. Now, Athena needs to be brilliant and poised. She likes to go in with a plan and not take risks. We need an actor who has that certainty, but is also beautiful and fierce. She also needs to be capable to hold her own in an action scene, especially in that final book, and she should bear some resemblance to Annabeth, but still have that godlike feeling. I went with Alicia Vikander, who seems like she walked directly out of Greek mythology. She's turned in some great performances in the past, but I'm mainly looking at her in Tomb Raider, where she sells me on her cleverness, and more importantly, her badass nature. I think she has that look, and she actually looks like she could be the mom of the Annabeth I cast. Alicia just has a natural presence that I think works well with Athena.
I made a promise.
No.
You're not getting out of here.
So Alicia Vikander as Athena. Next up, we have Polyphemus, who is an interesting role to cast. Now, I never liked the fully CGI creature thing, similar to what they did in Sea of Monsters. I always prefer a mix of the two, having an actor which is based in reality and either taking their performance and building on it or enhancing it. The film version of this character is actually quite muscular. I'd actually prefer to go a little bit more overweight and true to the books. I went with Chris Sullivan, who is best known for his role as Toby in This Is Us, which actually makes him don a fat suit already, but it's when he played Taserface that he perfectly toes that line of dumb and funny, but fueled by aggression, which is exactly what this character needs to be.
Taserface?
That's right.
Do you shoot tasers out of your face?
It's metaphorical!
For what?
It is a name what strikes fear into the hearts of anyone what hears it.
I could see him expanding on this, but he has that voice and that perfect inflection for this role. So Chris Sullivan is Polyphemus. Next up we have Hermes. Now Hermes, unlike the other gods out there, is actually pretty reasonable and helpful. He has shown he can actually be caring and really tries for his children. However, he can become quite angry, as shown in The Last Olympian, but overall he is level-headed and caring. Now in the books, Hermes is described as a middle-aged man who has an athletic build. And since Hermes is the father of Luke, preferably he would have some resemblance to the Luke I cast as well. I want to go with someone who has that calm nature, but also can show his dominance and his godlike stature. That's why I went with Ewan McGregor, who seems perfect for a role like this. He has played that mentor in the past, he feels down to earth, but in the same way he's still beautiful and regal.
Hello there.
He looks a lot like the Luke I cast, but can play that aggressive side that Hermes has as well. So Ewan McGregor as Hermes. Next up we have Cersei, another character cut from the movies. Now Cersei should be beautiful and fierce. She should be almost hypnotic, and someone who feels like they are from another world. She is the Greek goddess of magic, so she should have that air of illusion and mystery. That's why I went with Katie McGrath, who brings this type of beauty, but that mystery and that type of nature that makes you want more.
Is it true?
It's what, G?
Are you my dog? My husband who will beg for me?
She's been great in Supergirl and shows what she has to take on a role like this. So Katie McGrath is Cersei. Lastly, we have Clarisse, a character who does appear in the first book, but becomes much more prevalent in the second. Now, Clarisse is older than our trio, and although I'd like for her to appear in the first season, I want her to have much more depth and nuance than just being a tough girl. She is supposed to be 14 years old when she first appears, but it's more important that she packs that punch. Now with Clarisse, she's tough because finding a teenage girl who's built like a tree in Hollywood is kind of a tough ask. Majority of roles around this age don't really fall in this category, so it makes her really tough to find that perfect actor who's already in the limelight. I'd much prefer an unknown for a role like this, but still I have that task of looking for an actor. So I decided to focus more on that energy of Clarisse. I mean, she's the daughter of Ares, who's the god of war, and she should have that same pig-headedness. She should be strong and angry, but brave. I want to see that same sneering nature that Ares has, and someone who looks somewhat similar to Tom Hardy, who I cast as Ares. I ended up going with Bella Ramsey, who actually was recently cast as Ellie in the Last of Us series. Although I've had Bella in my mind for this role since the beginning, even her cast as Ellie shows that strength of character that she can play. She was absolutely wonderful in the small role in Game of Thrones, where she shows her voice is something that needs to be heard.
I don't plan on knitting by the fire while men fight for me. I might be small, Lord Glover, and I might be a girl, but I am every bit as much a northerner as you.
Indeed you are, my lady. No one is
And I don't
questioning
need your permission to defend the North.
But she's also great in His Dark Materials, where she plays a more similar type of character that we'd want here.
He has the knife.
Look, we don't want to hurt you.
We want to hurt you. They would have protected us and our adults in the hills.
Now, I know she isn't the most dominating force out there, but she brings that fierceness that very few actors at this age do. I also like that she's the type of actress who doesn't make herself up, doesn't really wear makeup, and lets herself kind of be, similar to how I picture Clarisse. I could see her going toe-to-toe with Ares, and I can definitely see her being the offspring of Tom Hardy. They look pretty similar, so Bella Ramsey as Clarisse. So there is the Sea of Monsters. Let me know in the comments below your choices, and let me know what you thought of mine. We're exploring into uncharted territories with Titan's Curse. Make sure you press subscribe so you don't miss out on that. As always though, thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.